Rioting that has spread from the streets of London to other major cities in the UK. Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester and Bristol are now embroiled in the unrest. In London, the destruction and looting continued, with mostly young demonstrators hurling missiles at police in the city's northeast. Fires are burning in several parts of the capital and firefighters are working around the clock to contain the blazes. At last count, 334 people have been arrested, 69 have been charged. The rapid and dramatic eruption of violence has stunned social commentators in Britain. Many are blaming the government's austerity measures. Others say it's being driven by underlying racial tensions and poverty. The ABC's Europe correspondent Philip Williams is following developments. He says police have been scrambling to bring the looting under control.
Yes, really quite shocking how far and wide it spread. It started in Hackney, it went down south to Croydon, to Peckham, to Lewisham. Now it's Notting Hill, Ealing, Camden, Chalk Farm, Enfield, and I'm sure there'll be many more names added to that list because even though it's very late at night here, the riots just seem to continue unabated and in some cases unchecked. Unfortunately, Birmingham and Liverpool have also been blighted. In Birmingham, they've been in the city centre, windows smashed and more looting. And we're getting reports from Liverpool also of similar sorts of actions. So not just the capital, this is going to stretch police forces in all directions. And already the London forces have called for reinforcements from police forces surrounding the London area. So clearly they can't cope at the moment and they definitely need help. In some areas, the police simply haven't turned up, and that tells you that they simply don't have the manpower to do it, to be in all these places at the one time. They have managed to control things in some areas, and then these other areas flare up, and they go and try and control that, and then the original areas flare up again. So it's a cat and mouse game. These people are highly mobile, the ones that are doing the looting, and they're moving from one area to another, and the police simply cannot keep up. Social media is extremely important to these groups. It's how they communicate. In fact, I saw one man at a burning car next to me, and I saw on his BlackBerry a list of names of places, and I said, "Oh, what's that?" And he said, "They're the places we're going to hit." He said, "You can tick some of them off already," and he was right. And some of those on that list, they were hit later on. So it does seem to be the tool, the preferred tool, and the police are very much aware of this and say that people using social media to encourage violence, they will be prosecuted if caught.
Mike Jelves is from the suburb of Woolwich in South London. He's been uploading pictures of the riots overnight and he joins me on the phone now. Mike Jelves, describe for us, if you can, what you've been seeing.
Well, it's all been quite sudden, really. Obviously, here in London, we've seen the news reports from what happened over the weekend in other parts of the city. And it was all a bit of a strange atmosphere early on this evening, talk of people coming from further into the centre of the city in here. And then around 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the crowd started gathering, sirens started going off in shops in the high street. There's evidence of people looting from the stores there, just quite willingly doing so. And then it moved into the main part of the town centre, standoff between all the rioters who gathered in the town and the riot police, and then a fire. So it was like almost everything you would possibly imagine in these scenarios.
So have you
unfolding right in front of us.
Sorry, so you've been out on the streets watching all of this unfold?
Yeah, our flat, our apartment was immediately above where the main confrontation took place between the police
and in your suburb
and the rioters.
Right, in your suburb of Woolwich, I mean, how many rioters were there and how quick were the police to respond?
Well, the police are in a difficult situation. There were very few of them compared to the number of people who are involved in the trouble. I wouldn't like to estimate the numbers on the video that we've uploaded on the company Jeddifield. As you can see, that there's clearly an outnumbering of police. And they were simply scared to get involved because they couldn't guarantee their own safety. And thus the fire was unable to be prevented from putting out before the pub completely is gone.
And I think we can see some pictures now of some of the footage that you've shot overnight there in Woolwich, and you can see, you know, people moving in, police moving back. They're throwing sorts of missiles. What were they throwing at the police?
It was kind of a strange menagerie of what they could find. There's some building works in the centre of the town at the moment, kind of regeneration project, ironically enough. And there were some workman signs, there were bits of wood that had come from other shop fronts, other buildings, plastic fencing that you put around building operations. Is literally anything they could pick up and use as a missile, really.
And I think you can see that police have sort of had to move back fairly quickly, as you say, clearly outnumbered.
Well, they had no chance but to pull back, and they had to stay at a safe enough distance and could only watch on, while the fire later on started raging.
And did you have any idea of why this violence, broke out in Woolwich? Was there any suggestion? We've been hearing a lot about social media sites being used. I mean, do you know why there was trouble there?
I think the reasons why there's been trouble here, you could probably trace back to the events that have unfolded since Tottenham on Saturday. What started off as a peaceful protest became an excuse for people to simply cause trouble and vent perhaps other issues. And what it seemed to be moving through the city down to the south and in other areas beyond where it started, that it's people simply being involved because they can be involved. They're seeing that the police aren't able to cope or not being able to do anything, and it's just they're out for what they can get, really. I don't know whether you can blame it on the summer school holidays. Obviously, that seems a little bit convenient, but I don't think there's any sense to it. We were asking people on the ground if our building was on fire underneath us. Well, there's a restaurant which could have easily caused a gas explosion or something. And we were told, basically, this is Woolwich, this is how it is. It's not some posh area. So it seems that you've got the disenfranchised youth of the suburb, much across all the country, in the current economic and political climate in Britain, just seems to be suffering or wanting to get some anger, even if they're not entirely sure what they're writing against. They're just writing.
All right, Mike Jelves, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much for sending in that footage, and thank you very much for speaking to us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you.
And of course, we'll bring you more on the situation in London and throughout Britain as it develops, and we'll also have the latest on financial markets in a moment. But first, let's get a check of some of the other stories we're following with Nick Grimm.
Thanks, Kim. Good afternoon. The federal government says it expects people smugglers will try to capitalise on a delay in the government's Malaysia solution. The High Court has blocked the government from sending asylum seekers to Malaysia until the legality of the deal has been tested in court. The government is adamant it's on strong ground, but admits that people smugglers may try to send more boats to Australia.
It is clear, of course, and one of our arguments to the court is that people smugglers will spin this and lie about this and say that this is some sort of green light. It's not.
A legal expert says it's the minister's powers which will be scrutinised by Australia's highest court.
The court has demonstrated it can literally hand down decisions